9 a.m. on Wednesday, June 30th, 2021. Let the record show the present from the board are Robert Early, Paul Bergeron, and myself, Daniel Hansberry. Is there a motion to waive the reading of the minutes of the public session from the board meeting held on Thursday, June 17th, 2021?
So moved.
Is there a second? Are there any errors or corrections? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Is there a motion to waive the reading of the non-public meeting minutes from the board meeting held on Thursday, June 17th, 2021, accept them and place them on file?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Are there any errors or corrections? Seeing none, I will call a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. Ayes have a motion carries. Is there a motion to waive the reading of the non-public meeting minutes from the board meeting held on June 21st, 2021, accept them and place them on file?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Are there any errors or corrections? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. There are no communications. Mr. Vincent, do you have anything for us?
I have nothing.
Okay. Director Klein, do you have anything for us?
No, Chair, I do not.
Thank you. All right, so moving on to new business. At this time, I will recognize Douglas Dame.
Good morning. I have before me a list of denials of commercial industrial property for the tax year of 2020. These are 40 properties which are on a list representing, in many cases, repeats, meaning that they are prior appeals that for whatever reason negotiations are ongoing or have been paused pending completion of appraisal reports or just waiting for information to be introduced. I believe copies of the list were provided to all members of the board, and happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions, Mr. Dame?
No.
Is there a motion to deny the 2020 abatements of properties located at various addresses in Nashua, New Hampshire, as provided per the attached list?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
I got
Vincent?
one item. There is one property that has to be removed from the list, and that is, it's about the seventh one down, 143 Daniel Webster Highway. That is the Lowe's Home Center, and that will be discussed later. There is a settlement agreement for that.
So is there an amendment to reflect the deletion of account number 30880 for the attached list?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Okay. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. All those, so the attached list now becomes the list minus that property. So all those in favor of the motion as presented signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. Ayes have a motion carries. Mr. James, does that conclude the report?
That does.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, this time I'll recognize Gary Turgis, who has the abatement recommendations for the board. Turgis.
Good morning. The first one that I have up for discussion is 4 Manifest Drive. It's a mobile home. Property had a tree fall on it and back in November. And I received a July 1st tax bill in error. We're just going to abate the amount for the July 1st tax bill.
Any questions? Any questions, Mr. Church?
No.
Is there a motion to approve the assessment reduction of the property located at 4 Manifest Drive from $47,300 to 0?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Mr. Curtis.
Okay, the second property that I have is property located at 4 Berkeley Street in Nashville. It is a 3-family home. The taxpayer feels that the value of the property was $409,000 based on a list of comparable sales that she supplied in sales grid. And the city's analysis came up with a value of $420 with an equalized assessment of $348,600. Any questions on this?
Questions, Mr. Churtis?
Just one.
Mr. Richard?
Mr. Sturgis, the abatement recommendation describes the property as 2 buildings. They're attached though, aren't they?
No, they're not attached. They're 2 separate.
Did this come before us last year?
I believe it did, no. I don't remember.
This is by the stadium.
Yes, yes, it's by home and stadium.
So is there a motion to approve the assessment reduction for the property located at 4 Greeley Street from $428,200 to $348,600?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Mr. Churtis.
The next property that I have is 25 Broad Street in Nashua. This is another 3-family property. The taxpayer felt that the value of the property was $430,000. They based that on a list of comparable sales. In comparison to the assessment at 24 Broad Street, the city analysis came up with a market value of $460,000, which is equalized to $381,800. Any questions on that property?
Any questions, Mr. Churtis? Is there a motion to approve the assessment reduction for the property located at 25 Broad Street from $421,200 to $381,800?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Mr. Curtis.
The next abatement application I have is for a property at 45 Portland Street in Nashua. The taxpayers feel the market value of the property was $410,000 based on a list of comparable sales and deferred maintenance items. They did purchase the property in April, on April 23rd of 2020 for $441,000. The city's analysis came up, indicates that the value that they paid of $441,000 is an acceptable value. Recommending approval for reduction of the abatement of market value of $441,000 with an equalized assessment of $366,000.
Questions of Mr. Churtis?
No.
Mr. Churtis, just a question. Looking at the comps, one of the comps that you used was Raymond Street. So Raymond, Wood, Berkeley, Chester, all of those streets would be in line with Cortland.
Yes, Cortland's in the same neighborhood.
Thank you. All right, is there a motion to approve the assessment reduction for the property located at 45 Cortland Street from $457,500 to $366,000?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Mr. Curtis.
The next property that I have is located at 10 Mountain Laurels Drive, unit number 104. The taxpayers felt that the market value of the property is $197,500 based on some comparable sales. They also purchased the property for $197,500 on January 31st, 2020. The city's analysis supports a market value of $197,500 with an equalized assessment of $163,900. Any questions regarding this property?
Questions, Mr. Curtis?
Nope.
Mr. Curtis, as I recall, before you were presenting a number of condos in a particular association, and you said over time they could change significantly. When they're starting out, it's pretty much even Steven, but
Right.
due to the keeping up with the property and neglecting the property,
Correct.
a considerable impact on value.
Yes.
As this went up, I remember that going up back in 1985. It seems almost like yesterday. So it's been around
Right.
for 36 years.
Right.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the assessment reduction for the property located at 10 Mount Laurel Drive, Unit 104, from $177,300 to $163,900?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The motion carries. Mr. Curtis?
Okay, the next property is 10 Mountain Laurels Drive, Unit 203. Taxpayers feel the market value is $309 based on a list of comparable sales that they provided. They also, again, on this one, they purchased the property for $309 on March 23rd, 2020. And the city's analysis indicates that a market value of $309 with an equalized assessment of $256,500.
Questions for Mr. Curtis? Is there a motion to approve the assessment reduction for the property located at 10 Mount Laurels Drive, Unit 203, from $291,300 to $256,500?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The motion carries. Mr. Curtis?
The next property that I have is 10 Mount Laurels Drive, unit number 502. The taxpayers feel the market value of their property is $320 based on some sales, and they also purchased the property for $320 on February 13th, 2020. The sales analysis supports a market value of $320, an equalized assessment of $265,600. Any questions regarding this?
Questions, Mr. Curtis?
No.
Is there a motion to approve the assessment reduction for the property located at 10 Mount Laurels Drive, Unit 502, from $292,900 to $265,600?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Mr. Curtis?
The next property that I have is a property located at 16 Mount Laurels Drive, unit number 104. The taxpayer felt that the market value of this property was $265 based on some comparable sales, and that he also purchased the property for that amount, $265, on April 30th, 2020. However, this sale was an unqualified sale because there was no market exposure for it. The taxpayer knew the grantor. He knew who the grantor was, and he was the one that purchased the property based on that information. The city's analysis supports a market value of $350,000 with an equalized assessment of $290,500. Recommend approval for $290,500.
Questions, Mr. Curtis?
No questions.
No questions.
Is there a motion to approve the assessment reduction for the property located at 16 Mount Laurels Drive, Unit 104, $328,100 to $290,500?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Mr. Sturgis?
Okay, and the next one that I have is 16 Mountain Laurels Drive, unit number 201. The taxpayer feels that the property, value of the property is $370,000, based on some comparable sales, and they also, again, in this case, purchased the property for $370,000 on May 21st of 2020. The city's analysis supports that the market value of $370,000 with equalized assessment of $3,071. Any questions regarding this?
Questions of Mr. Sturgis?
No.
Is there a motion to approve the assessment reduction for the property located at 16 Mount Laurel's Drive, unit 201, from $328,100 to $307,000? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Does that conclude the report?
That concludes my report.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, board.
At this time, the board would recognize Mr. Mandiel.
Good morning, board.
Good morning, board.
All right. I have some abatement recommendations. The first one I have is for VTLA Avenue. It's a single family home. The taxpayers felt the value of the property was $344,000. City's analysis came in at a market value of $362,000, with a proportionate assessment of $300,500. Does the board have any questions?
On the comps, Mr. Mandiel.
Yep.
You mentioned Sycamore Lane, Cheyenne Drive were adjusted for being a superior location. Is that due to traffic volume?
Dublin is a busy street.
And does the fact that there's no butters to the rear of those properties also play into it for their neighbors, the National River, so that gives them a place?
Especially in Cheyenne.
All right. Any other questions?
No.
Is there a motion to approve the assessment reduction for the property located at 8 Dublin Avenue from $361,600 to $300,500?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, indicate by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Mr. Mandiel?
My next property is 255 Pine Street. It's a single family home. Taxpayers felt the market value was a purchase price of $369,000. And the city's analysis that price of $369,000 falls within the range of comparable sales, proportionate assessment of $306,300. Does the board have any questions?
Questions for Mr. Mandiel?
No.
Is there a motion to approve the assessment reduction for the property located at 255 Pine Street from $355,700 to $306,300? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Mr. Mandiel?
Next property is located at 33 Wood Street, single family home. Taxpayer wrote down the market value of $75,000. I believe that is just for the condition of the house itself at the time. They provided a very in-depth analysis of what the work needed to be done to bring it up to code. And the city's analysis recommends lowering the assessment to $252,400 from the original assessment of $329,200. I should add, this property is just about completed, was just about complete for 2021. So this is strictly for 2020.
It was unbelievable what happened to these people.
I know.
Questions of Mr. Mandiel?
And one question, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Mike, has this house been lived in all along?
No, owners owned another property in the city that they could stay in while construction was going on.
Other questions? Is there a motion to approve the assessment reduction for the property located at 43 Wood Street from $329,200 to $252,400? Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Mr. Mandio.
Second property, the next property is located on 8 C Street. There's a two-unit family flat. The city recommends lowering the assessment from $214,600 to $167,700. Board have any questions?
Questions, Mr. Mandio? This looks like an investor who's looking at these types of properties. correct? Is there a motion to approve the assessment reduction for the property located at 8 C Street from $214,600 to $167,700?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Mr. Mandio.
Next property is located at 7 Nelson Street. Taxpayer purchased the property for $315,000 in October 2019. Sales analysis shows that the original purchase price falls within the range of comparable sales with a proportionate assessment of $261,500. City recommends approval.
Questions, Mr. Mandio?
I just have one. Your report indicates that there were attempts to contact the taxpayer to ask questions, and those attempts were unsuccessful.
That is correct.
And generally, how do you go about attempting to contact?
90% of the time, it's through the phone. There's no address or attempt to contact them through the school.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the assessment reduction for the property located at 7 Nelson Street from $282,300 to $261,500?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Mr. Mandio.
Next property is a single family located on 5 Indian Drive. City recommends denial for late filing.
Any questions on that property? Is there, a motion to deny the abatement of the property located at 5 Indiana Drive?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Mr. Mandio.
Next property is located at 4 Williams Court. Taxpayer purchased the property for $136,000 in November 2019. The city looked at this strictly on condition and recommends lowering the assessment from $187,700 to $133,800.
Questions, Mr. Mandio? Is this off of Williams Street, Bell Williams Court is?
No, this is off the Temple.
Is there a motion to approve the assessment reduction for the property located at 4 Williams Court from $187,700 to $133,800?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Mr. Mandio.
Next property is located at 38 Silverton Drive. It's a townhouse condominium. The taxpayer purchased the property for $220,000 in February 2020. Sales analysis indicates that the original sales price falls within the range of comparable sales, and the city recommends lowering the assessment from $195,800 to $182,600.
Questions of Mr. Mandio? Is there a motion to approve the assessment reduction for the property located at 38 Silverton Drive from $195,800 to $182,600?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Mr. Mandio.
The next property is also a townhouse style condominium located at 30 Heather Court. Taxpayer purchased the property for $252,000. The indicates that the purchase price of $252,000, excuse me for the typo there, falls within the range of comparable sales. Recommends lowering the assessment from $217,300 to $209,200.
Any questions, Mr. Mandel? Is there a motion to approve the assessor reduction for the property located at 30 Hubble Court from $217,300 to $209,200?
So moved.
For a second,
Second.
any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Mr. Mandel?
Next property is a single-family home located at 9 Nathan Court. Taxpayer purchased the property for $310,000 in February 2020. Sales analysis indicates that the original purchase price falls within the range of comparable sales. Recommends lowering the assessment from $291,200 to $257,300.
Questions of Mr. Mandel? Is there a motion to approve the assessor reduction for property located at 9 Nathan Court from $298,200 to $257,300?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Mr. Mandel?
Next property is a 3 Shaker Place. This is located in Golden Pine condominiums. It's a single-family detached condominium. I need to make a change on this. I was able to speak to the homeowner on Monday, the 28th. However, that does not change the city's position. We recommend denial of this.
Questions of Mr. Mandel? Seeing none. Is there a motion to deny the abatement for the property located at 3 Shaker Place?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Mr. Mandel?
Next property is also located in Golden Farms condominium. This one is on 14 Shaker Place. The city recommends denying for the same reason as the previous abatements.
Questions of Mr. Mandel?
No.
Is there a motion to deny the abatement for the property located at 14 Shaker Place?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Mr. Mandel?
Next property is located at 32 Dublin Avenue, a single-family home. City recommends lowering the assessment from $414,000 to $384,200. And this was done by adding depreciation that had been removed earlier.
All right, questions for Mr. Mandel?
Other questions? Mike, could you explain the functional depreciation, like how the house has been added on to and doing so it's kind of hodgepodge,
That's it, basically, yes. It's kind of a rambling floor plan.
is there any way to improve that or?
No.
Okay, no other questions?
So it's almost just kind of for our education worthwhile to retain an architect. Correct. Is there a motion to approve the abatement reduction for the property located at 32 Dublin Ave, $414,000 to $384,200?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Mr. Mandel?
The next property is located at 66 Harbor Avenue, Unit 9. It's a town-style condominium. The city looked at the comparable sales of this, but decided to make it a uniform adjustment to the entire complex, lowering the assessment for this unit from $162,900 to $124,100.
Questions for Mr. Mandel?
No, I don't know.
Which one is this on Harbor? Is this the one that's near the ball field, like, All Street?
No, this is closer to East Waterston.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Is there a motion to approve the assessment reduction for the property located at 66 Harbor Ave, Unit 9, from $162,900 to $124,100?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Mr. Mandiel?
The next property is located at 9 Normandy Way, in Majestic Heights. It's a single-family home. The city recommends lowering the assessment from $379,400 to $351,400.
Questions, Mr. Mandiel? Is there a motion to approve the assessment reduction for the property located at 9 Normandy Way from $379,400 to $351,100?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Mr. Mandiel?
Thank you. My last recommendation is for 2 Henry David Drive. The city recommends denial for rate plan.
Any questions? Is there a motion to deny the abatement for the property located at 2 Henry David Drive, Unit 104?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Mandiel.
Thank you, board.
This time, I will recognize Mr. Vincent.
Thank you. I have 3 items to discuss. I'll take them out of order. I want to go to number 2 on my sheet. And that is the abatement application for 6 Harvard Street. There's a 2020 abatement application on this property. A little bit of history on the property. This is owned by the Catholic Church, and there's some space being leased by Family Promise, which is a nonprofit organization. They were in the process of renovating the space for their needs as of April 1st, 2020. A tax bill was sent out for $73,688.25. The property was considered vacant for April 1st, but we found out subsequently that the space was being renovated for Family Promise's use. So it was in between tenants as far as the actual occupancy of the space. Family Promise and the Catholic Church applied for the abatement application, partly because of financial needs and because they were actually leasing the space and fitting it up for their need. We do have some representatives from Family Promise and possibly the church to speak about the abatement application.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, Chris Bolt, Donahue Tucker Chandela. I'm here on behalf of the Diocese of Manchester. I'm joined today by Robert Ive of the Diocese. We also have, Attorney Brunier for Family Promise, Pamela Wellman of Family Promise, who is the person in charge, does all the good work, and Dusty Clover, who is of the executive counsel for Family Promise. As you know from our materials, Family Promise is a homeless shelter. They are doing the good work that the church over the centuries has always done, helping the less fortunate. They service 24 families now in that facility. The lease, as was provided in our materials, was entered into in March of 2020. The work began shortly thereafter for the renovation and fit up from the Infant Jesus School to the homeless shelter. This is the very nature of an exempt usage under our statutes and case law, and we respectfully request that the board find that this bill was in essence issued in error and that neither the diocese nor Family Promise bill, which would have, we can go into great detail if you need, but the detrimental impact on those services that this organization is providing, which otherwise the city would have to provide services for. So we say that the application before you is timely and complete. The A9 that listed this property from the diocese was filed timely back before April 15th of last year. And so we respectfully urge that the board find that this application be granted. Happy to answer any questions. I'm happy to have anyone else give you more feedback if you need. Questions?
Mr. Chairman, I have one question. What was the beginning and end of the reconstruction or the rehab of the building?
I know the end for certain because the ceremonial quote-unquote groundbreaking, which was actually the end of the process, was in October of last year when both the governor and the mayor were in attendance. I believe the renovation began shortly after the lease. The lease was entered into on March 19th is the document in the file.
2020.
2020, correct.
So the school closed in June of 19, is that correct?
It closed in 19, I know that for a fact, yes. I'm not sure if it was May or June, but that's June it is.
And then from June of 19 to March of 20, it remained vacant.
That is my understanding. It's still in the process of evaluation and usage by the diocese, and while that was going on, obviously negotiations with family promise.
I could add that it was not being used for any for-profit purpose.
Correct.
And then are they connected to the Oblate Retreat House used to be, its use as a transition housing? Is this the same organization or are those two separate distinct
I'm
organizations?
going to have to defer on that.
It's a separate organization.
Separate organization. And it's going to be for families in transition, is that correct? Or
Families in Transition is a different organization in Manchester. But our purpose, our mission is for families who are temporarily homeless, yes.
so single men or single women would not be allowed to live there? Is that-
Correct, it's families. We have single fathers, single mothers, and full families.
Mr. Question, when did the school cease operations?
June 30th, 2019.
Was the building taxed prior to the 2020 tax bill? No.
We filed A9s every year on time.
Further questions, Mr. Chairman? Anything else you care to add, Mr. Vincent?
My recommendation is to make an application.
Anything else, Council?
Thank you kindly for the time.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the abatement of the 2020 tax bill of $73,688.25 for the property located at 6 Island Street?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. We greatly appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Vincent.
Next item would be item number 1 on my list, and that is really just a statement. There's no motion that's needed by the board. That is the is a 2020 abatement application for 41 Berkeley Street. But there's also a Board of Tax and Land Appeals decision on the same property for the 2018 to 2019 tax years. The board found the market value, let me find it here, found the market value for 41 Berkeley Street for 2018 to be be $625,000, and for 2019, it was $650,000. That translates into assessed value of $577,200, 2018. No, I'm sorry, $592,500 for tax year 2018, and assessed value $577,200 for 2019. The board also ordered that the $577,200 assessment be carried forward until the next revaluation. So that value is to be applied to the property for 2020. So on the TC abatement report, I've listed 3 tax years, 441 Berkeley Street, for the abatement amounts. So that will be taken compared with the signed TC abatement report. We also have the owner of Lori Romano of the property here to speak.
Did you set?
I think I'm set on that.
Any questions from Mr. Vincent? Okay, so Rolando?
Yes, I just want to give you these packets because I was referenced a few documents and I don't want you to be in the dark. I appreciate the board not pushing the matter to an appeal and it being over with. So that's nice to have that behind me. I am concerned about my ability to get information on neighborhood assessments and abatements that have been done within the neighborhood. And one of the issues I have is the property right next door to me at 39 Berkeley Street. I feel this board in this city denied me the opportunity and the assessing office to understand how that abatement was produced and what was done on that abatement, to justify the level of assessment and the impact that had on my property assessment. I don't think it's right. I am going to file a complaint with the state about this. I do feel that every citizen should be able to look at other properties, especially in their neighborhood. And I wrote to Mr. Vincent on June 2nd, and I said I wanted to speak to Mr. Churches about the abatement work he did on 39 Berkeley Street. I wrote to him in 2019. He would not respond, and nobody would respond out of assessment. So per the DRA guidelines, that question should be responded to. It doesn't have to be by the person you wrote to. It could be somebody in assessing. Nobody responded. It fell on deaf ears. My request to speak to the board was denied. So I couldn't come to the board last year. I think you should always be able to come to the board on a property abatement issue before it is an appeal. And I did have an abatement. And I know the city took the position, Attorney Leonard and Attorney Bolton, that it was a inexplicably linked abatement to an already existing appeal, but the VTLA did not rule on that, in favor of that, and kept them separate issues. So I want you to understand something. 39 Berkeley Street had an abatement done by Gary. I'm not opposed to what was produced, but the sales data he used on that abatement was Tanglewood, a house in Tanglewood, and also my sister home at 45 Berkeley Street. The last 4 pages of the document are some pictures off the listing sheet on that property. Now, 45 Berkeley Street was purchased in 2017. He took a data point a couple years out, which is a little unusual for them to use sales data a couple years old, but it was right on the street and he felt it was relevant. Here's what's unique about this property. So these photographs, there were very limited photographs on the MLS listing on this property because the property was dated. And when you receive photographs and you see pictures like this, you can see it has this mauve carpeting, this wallpaper. It was dated. There were no pictures of bathrooms or kitchens. There was no write-up on it. It was dated. When the property owners bought it, they did move in for 6 months, put a dumpster out front, and proceeded with a major overhaul. Pulled a $15,000 permit. Now, Mike Mandel followed up on that property. He went repeatedly. So I believe he had an idea, given the dumpster out on the side of it, very visible, that the house was undergoing a pretty significant renovation. However, they were not allowed in. Property owners didn't let them in. So, and it was a fully renovated house. In 2019, that house went on the holiday house tour, like mine did in 17. And the assessing staff came through, because the property owner said to me, I went over to see it, and looked at the house, and the property owner said, the assessing staff has come through the house. And they said, do you think they'll change the assessment? I said, no. I said, I think you'll get assessed the next round. But I don't think they're going to make a change, because you had filed a permit. The assessor was by in 2017 and early 18 before KRT set the numbers to see that this work was going on. And the assessing office made no change to that property. They viewed the purchase price of $560 as being a reasonable market value for the house. And the fact that it was fully renovated, the assessing office saw no reason to add value. In part, I think they were right, because diagonal to that property was a house at 38 Berkeley Street that sold to another young couple. These were two young couples that moved down the street. It was 1,000 square feet bigger. It sold for $540. It had a much newer kitchen and renovated bathrooms. And the two couples would talk, and the couple of the bigger house, we said to the other couple, really overpaid. I think, in fact, the assessors looked at it and said, okay, yeah, it's all renovated, but they didn't want to change the EYB and make these conditional changes, because I had obviously been making some waves about that. And it really shouldn't have been done. It needed to be addressed in the update. But the card was never changed such that KRT saw any of that improvement. Now, in 2019, Gary uses that house at 45 Berkeley Street as a comp for 39 Berkeley Street. It surprised me, because the size difference between the two homes is about 750 square feet. There's a big size difference. The assessing office usually would not make those comparable. There were other larger homes on Concord Street in the neighborhood that could have been used as comps. But the other issue is, if the assessing office believed that that was an unrenovated home, it didn't acknowledge that it was unrenovated, there would have been no reason for them to compare that to 39 Berkeley Street. If you look at the property card, which I've given you on 39 Berkeley Street, it is a house that has put about $1.1 million into it. That's a lot of money. A $400,000 permit, the pool, the upgrade, and the purchase price is about $1.1 million. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to appreciate that. That's probably a well-done home. Here it is. Property owners don't deny that at all. But for the assessor to take 45 Berkeley Street and make it a comp to 39 tells me that the assessing office knew that 45 Berkeley Street was a very renovated home as well. The problem I have is the property card. If you look at 45 Berkeley Street, the property record card that I've given you, the EYB and the documentation on that card shows it as it's right before the pictures in the back is that one. It shows the EYB as 1964. It's not a 1964 home. How does Vision take a home like this and know that this home at 45 is very similar to renovation level of the home at 41? How does Vision know that? When we don't mark the card, when there's no note put by the assessor that this is an upgraded house. Now, I know the assessing staff went through this house. I believe it was communicated to the assessors, the condition of the house. If it wasn't, then all of you should have questioned, why would you take this really dated old home and compare it to 39 Berkeley Street? It makes no sense. But I believe they knew it. And so, I wanted to have this understanding to go into my VTLA hearing. And I could not have that understanding because the city would not allow me to have that knowledge. It would not allow me to have that conversation. I was so irritated with the June 2nd email I sent to Mr. Vincent, where I discussed in the first paragraph wanting to address this abatement at 39 Berkeley Street. And the response I got was the generic response. These are the documents developed by the assessing department to determine if an abatement was necessary. They speak for themselves. The documents are specific to each property. They do not necessarily reflect what would be considered for another property. Okay, that's a general statement, but I'm writing to you about my specific property. I have been hammered by this National Legal Office in letters in writing, assess help, this is Ortolano. You can't write a question into assess help unless it's about your own property. That's what that's used for. That came from Celia. That was never really true. But when I write to my own property, when I speak to my own property, you ignore it and you come general. You go, well, they don't necessarily reflect what would be considered on another property. Did it for mine? Why would 49.5 Berkeley Street not be a reflection of 41? It is built by the same architect. Okay, designed by the same architect and built by the same construction company. And I put the pictures in there, those 4 pictures, because the stairway is identical. The front to back living room, the molding in the fireplace is literally identical to mine. I was shocked when I first walked in that house because I said, oh my gosh, this is the same architect out of Boston. And they had some drawings marked with the same name. So technically their house has a completion date later than mine. They think that was an error. It's listed as a 1937 house. Mine is a 1925. They actually think based on the drawings, the house that was not correct, but we don't know. But technically it would be a newer house. And the renovations done to this property in 2017 and 2018 make all of the upgrades 10 years newer than mine. So, the VTLA has come out with a decision. I have addressed with Rick Vincent. I had him come to the house to look at my 3rd floor living space in my attic. I feel my 3rd floor living space should not be considered the same quality of space as my 1st and 2nd floor. And I cite 45 Berkeley Street. All of their living space is on the 1st and 2nd floor, the 4 bedrooms, and it's about 100 square feet bigger than mine. Like 3,450, and I'm 3,347. Okay, they're very, very close. But all of the living space is 1st and 2nd floor, and it's an air-conditioned house. My living space is 1st, 2nd, and my 4th bedroom is an attic. It's not heated, it's not air-conditioned, and it's not insulated. We've never used it as a bedroom. It's not livable. It's oppressively hot in the summer. It only has gable windows on that up 3rd floor. It's not open walled. And it's too cold in the winter. It's a 50-degree room. You'd have to run an electric heater and with all the old wiring in there. We don't do it. So we don't use that space. I pay $90 a square foot for that attic like I do for the 1st and 2nd floor. I don't feel that's equitable. Now the VTLA comes down and gives a number of $625. They don't specify how the property card should be changed. My understanding is the VTLA number is an override that they're going to put on my property. When KRT came up with 652, KRT, I think, changed the data on the property record card, hit the calculate button, took the depreciation down 5 years, changed some features on the quality of bathrooms and kitchens, and knocked that assessment down 30 grand. I think the math tells me that worked with a calculate button. But now the VTLA comes in and just gives a number. They don't care what the property card looks like. How is Vision going to rate my space and know that my card does not have the same living conditions as my neighbor's properties? And why can't the card be changed to reflect that the 3rd floor should not be rated and paid at a $90 a square foot level? It's a data correction. And I really think it affects my property. And the reason I think it does is because that 350 square feet billed at $90 is so different from the 450 extra square feet on the 2nd floor of my neighbor that my finished basement space would become a wash with their space. I do believe these 2 homes should be assessed fairly closely. Their renovations are 10 years newer. However, it won't come out that way because the data on the cards is not even accurate. So that's what concerns me about this whole Vision thing. When the assessors use a house that the data is incorrect on the card, don't bother correcting the card to any capacity. Vision's looking at that card. They see a 1964 house that's old, that really is renovated, and whatever $15,000 renovation they did must have been so small, it wasn't worth anything. When in fact, it was probably, a $200,000 renovation. It was big. That's okay. But there's no knowledge for that. Your assessors go in, your staff looks at it, nobody notes anything. They use it as a high-end home to compare to the neighbors. and none of it's documented. So I've written to the VTLA, I think I CC'd you on it, to just say, how do these data corrections get made? How does my card become reflective of the property it is? You gave me a nice number, it's an override, but it doesn't reflect the card at all. So, and I really strongly object to the treatment I received last year from the legal office and from you as a board, under the advisement of the legal office. And I'm glad to see Attorney Leonard sitting in here. And I want to let you know, I hope we never see Attorney Holden sitting in here again. Okay? This was wrong. To tell property owners you can't come in here and question your neighbor's property right next door. And frankly, I wrote the abatement form and you granted. I think I know what I was talking about. I think I had a pretty good understanding of where that property should be, as I had on mine. And if you recall, in 2019, I asked you to accept $595 for my property. Just give me $595 and I'll walk away. And you folks said no. And it turned into what? $50,000 of city spending to go battle that on top of me? Total waste. So that's the end of that, but in public comment, I want to address another issue.
Thank you. And did you have a third item to say, Mr. Benson?
Yes. Want to revisit the 2020 denial list that was presented by Doug Dave. I apologize, there are two other properties that should be removed from that list. Actually, three other properties, two owned by Northern New Telephone. 7 Graham Drive, it's the 8th, from the top, the 8th and 9th properties on the list. 7 Graham Drive and 124 West Pearl Street. Those should be removed from the list. Those are still open abatement applications.
124 West Pearl.
Right. And then down toward the bottom of the page, it's about the 8th one up, it's 213 Daniel Webster Highway. That's still an open abatement application, that should be removed as well. 213. Yep, about the 8th one, 6th or 8th one from the bottom.
Oh, it's just DW Highway.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. All right, so is there a motion to reconsider the 2020 denial list as presented? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay, ayes have it, motion carries. Okay, so the original list is before, so is there a motion to amend the list as presented, which would reflect the deletion of property account number 24924 7 Graham Drive, 24976 124 West Pearl Street, and account number 12190 213 Daniel Webster Highway.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
before voting on that, since we're reconsidering the list in its entirety, should we also identify as being removed to account number 30880 Daniel Webster Highway?
Okay, all right. That captures everything, Mr. Benson, right?
It does.
Okay. All right, so all those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, ayes have it, motion carries. Okay, is there a motion to approve, or is there, the motion is to approve the motion as amended? Right, so it's, so is there a motion to adopt the, so to approve the motion as amended, that's what it is.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay, ayes have the motion carries. And if you need help with wording of
You're
that, let me
good.
know,
You're
okay?
good. No worries.
Okay, so anything else, Mr. Benson?
No, that's all I have.
All right, so there's no unfinished business. Public comment before we. Okay, once again, so the public comment period is 5 minutes per person. So each speaker is limited to speaking once per public comment period and is limited to 5 minutes. I also point out that remarks shall be civil, rude, or profane remarks are prohibited. And it was unfortunate somebody who spoke the last time did use an inappropriate four-letter word. I would ask that not happen going forward. And the presiding officer has the authority to terminate the remarks of any speaker when such remarks do not adhere to those rules or other applicable law. So, since you're alive.
Laura Cahoon.
All right. Could you state your address, Mrs. Cocahoon?
30 Greenwood Drive. I want to go on the record to say that I don't care if the city of Nashua puts $1 million into software and hardware for the assessing department. I feel that whole assessing department should be closed out and farmed out. We really should have qualified people doing this, and I do not feel that we are qualified enough to do this. There's just too many errors, and to not do all the abatements that were received is totally unnecessary. They're only hurting the residents, and apparently they don't care. Perfect example of the shoddy work they do. If you look at 32 Tanglewood, it was a disgrace. But as I said, I'm going on the record because I think the city of Nashua should close down our assessing department and farm it out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, just start my stopwatch here. Lori Ortolano, 41 Berkeley Street. Couple things. I just want to talk about an abatement issue. You all know that I did work on helping people file these abatements. And the first neighborhood I went into was over in Treston Brook because I saw a comment on social media from somebody saying, I applied last year and the abatement was lost. That was fun. So I started looking at that property and these other raised branches, and there was a group that just didn't look right over there. And a good group of 7 or 8 filed for an abatement. The abatements were processed. That was the whole issue that I ended up arrested for because I came in with the 18 and 28 Baltimore Road abatements to get them date timestamp. On the 22nd, I had emailed them to the city on the 17th and again on the 20th through Assess Help, and the city claims they never received them. I did a right to know for all emails and they weren't in there. But by the 22nd, Rick Vincent had said to me, we never got your applications. So when I came in to get them date timestamp, I don't know what was going on with email. I did end up getting them date timestamped. Eventually they came back to me stamped and changed, penciled in as January 22nd. I really thought these abatements would be addressed first because we went first come first serve. And they weren't. Now, I told property owners who called me because they did, and they emailed me and followed up, don't worry, they'll be taken in May, and if not, the first meeting in June. June 17th, I started to get a little worried. I started making phone calls and wrote some emails. I said, what's the deal? Who has these? It irritates the crap out of me when I write and I call and I say, who's assigned the abatement? And I get put on hold and I get the runaround and I'm told somebody will call you back. And nobody does. Why is it I can't get the name of an assessor's assigned? Now, ordinarily, there'd be an abatement by assessor list done by April or May. I think this year with changes, it wasn't done. It came to me Friday. And those abatements were never assigned to any of those 8. There was no name given to them. They've now been assigned to Mike Vandile. It's unacceptable. I mean, and I don't get an apology that, oh my gosh, we made a mistake. These will be done. These will be done. What I was told is we have the ability to do more abatements in July. Yes, but I would hope these are going to be the first, and they are done. You make a commitment to these people that you will do the abatements. Either deny them or grant them, but you will act on them. You will not leave them in a deemed denied pile to say to these people, no. Here's an email I got from a gentleman at 25 Baltimore Road. Just a quick update. No one come. I have exchanged emails with the city. It was promised that an evaluation would be done by the end of May. Nothing happened. On Friday, this is the end of May letter email. I received a tax bill for July. Noticed that my bill was up from 19. Very discouraging. Thinking about selling the house now just because I feel the city is overtaxing, especially when I don't own the land. Have a great weekend. I wrote back, don't give up hope. The abatement will show up on your next December tax bill. I've been virtually attending all Board of Assessors meetings, and they have not started really reviewing abatements. I would think by the first week of June, they will start presenting. Email Rick Vincent tonight or tomorrow and ask him who is assigned to your abatement. Ask Rick for his email address. It will either be Gary or Mike Mandial, Gary Turgis or Mike Mandial. Send them an email and ask them if they have started your abatement. Your street was one of the first to submit applications, and in the past, it's been first come, first served. Hang in there. I'm getting other emails from folks in your neighborhood who filed and haven't heard a word yet. Keep me posted or give me a call. He said, thank you, I'll send the email tomorrow. I reached out to him today to find out when he emailed and what he heard. But this is discouraging for people, for no explanation. And you know what? I'm not liked. I'm freaking despised. I don't want to call in and take Mr. Vincent's time. I don't want to send emails asking the same question over and over again. You know, I want to do it once and walk away. I really thought you'd address these, and I almost feel like it was some kind of slamming punishment that goes with the arrest, just to blow these people off and blow me off. It's obnoxious, and there should be a reason for it. I want to read one thing into the record. I did a lot of abatements. I did them for free. I did them because I wanted properties assessed fairly. Dear Lori, I would personally like to express our appreciation and commend you for your perseverance and hard work. In the spring of this year, you approached approximately 17 homes in the Thompson Preserve development. Location is Gilson Road. You presented the homeowners with the opportunity to have their assessment value reduced. You presented homeowners with nearly filled out forms. The outcome of this project is you have succeeded. Our units were recently reduced personally by $40,000. This resulted in a return of tax money from the city of Nashua. Our return check was over $900. And you continue to fight the good fight on behalf of homeowners. Thank you. Signed by the homeowners. That's why I do it. And I got into these developments because I don't think in developments we're assessing them correctly. We're jacking up developments and treating properties as if they're full value at market value in the year they're completed versus when they were under construction. And this is what causes skews in these neighborhoods. People always say to me, how can I be like 60,000 off from this house when an update is done when we're the same house? It's happening because of how the assessors are leveling these properties when they're not completed. And I want to put an end to that. I think we need to be more conscious, which is why I did it. It's just very upsetting to me, and I really feel we need to make some personnel changes. This should not have happened, and these people should not have been ignored. Unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public wishing to comment? Any comments by members of the board? I have a,
Mr. Chair, if I may.
yes.
Thank you. Ms. Ortolano, in her presentation regarding her 2020 abatement, made a statement that I had sent her an email saying that only her questions for her property could be sent to assess help. I have no recollection, nor do I think I've ever sent such an email. It is my understanding that every document Ms. Ortolano has ever requested has been sent to her as the fact that exists and was reasonably described. I do not think she can produce any evidence that I ever sent her anything saying that. Second, Ms. Ortolano's arrest was not because she went to the assessing office. It is because she forced her way into a locked legal office, sat in front of my office, and would not leave until the police came. It had nothing to do with time or the examine, assessment, or abatement applications. As Ms. Ortolano is well aware, the legal office does not do that. Thank you.
Comments by board members?
None.
Ms. Bell, all I should have said is all those in favor of the motion is amended.
Okay,
That's
I'll get that, yeah.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. All right. Session. Anything else for public session?
No.
Is there a motion to go into non-public session for two reasons? First, to discuss matters which, if discussed in public, would likely affect the personal reputation of any person other than a member of this board, unless such person requests an open meeting. This exemption shall extend to include any application for assistance or tax abatement or waiver of a fee, fine, or other levy if based on inability to pay a property of the applicant pursuant to RSA 91-3A:91-A:3, Roman numeral 2, parenthetical C, second, under 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2, parenthetical L, for the consideration of legal advice provided by legal counsel, either in writing or orally, to one or more members of the public body, even where legal counsel is not present.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I will call a roll. Mr. Early?